Good morning. Do you think it is ever justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals? If you identify as very liberal, then 1 out of 4 of you will answer yes to that question. If you identify as very conservative, then 3 out of 100 will say yes to that question. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about a new study which was released by YouGov.com. Now, a ChatGPT query on YouGov.com says that it is a nonpartisan study group which produces this type of research. ChatGPT said that YouGov.com has been accused of being more left-wing. So we can assume that we're probably getting an accurate picture of their view of the study's conclusions, rather, of the left, if they are left-leaning and commenting on the left. In fact, we can assume that it is probably worse than what they're saying. So I want to read a couple of points from the study. Most Americans across the political spectrum say political violence is never justified, but younger and more liberal Americans are more likely to disagree. The question posed to over 2,000 participants in the study. The participants in the study had to rate themselves on a scale. Are they very liberal, liberal, moderate, conservative, very conservative? Those who identified as very liberal, not based on age, just those who identified as very liberal, answered this question: yes, I think it is justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals. 25%. 25 people out of 100. Same question for conservatives. 3 out of 100 replied, I think it is justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals. 3 conservatives out of 100. Now, what's the difference? Aside from the numbers. Me as a conservative, I cringe when I hear that 3 out of 100 conservatives think that it's okay to resort to political violence. I cringe at that. What's wrong with those 3 people? 3 out of 100, I'm embarrassed by that. It should be 3 out of 1,000 or 3 out of 100,000. It should be none of us. The left, on the other hand, 25%. And you don't see them anywhere since this article came out. There are comments about the article. There are a lot of articles about this study from YouGov. But you just don't see the left responding in shame. Show me some posts. Show me some posts where a liberal posts this study from a left-leaning political, well, nonpartisan, we'll give them that, nonpartisan political research group. Show me a liberal who posts this study and says, shame on us. My liberal friends, shame on us. This is wrong. We need to figure out what we're doing wrong, why we are inciting 1/4 of those who are identifying as very liberal. Why do 1 out of 4 of them think it's okay to commit political violence? Now, I do want to distinguish here that just because somebody thinks that political violence is sometimes justified does not mean that they themselves would do it. So this is, and thank God for that, right? Otherwise, there would be an all-out war out there, all around us, with conservatives defending themselves from liberals running around while they're screaming anti-gun slogans, carrying their guns to kill us. Thankfully, they aren't believing that political violence is justified is different from believing that you yourself should go and do it. But still, 25 out of 100. I'm going to read another stat that came out of this. Do you generally consider it to be acceptable or unacceptable for a person to be happy about the death of a public figure they oppose? Is it okay to be happy, to celebrate when a public figure that you oppose dies, when he's killed, when he's murdered? Those who identify as very liberal, 24%. 24 out of 100 said, yes, we think it's okay to be happy when a public figure we oppose dies. This is why we saw after Charlie Kirk thousands, right? Thousands, tens of thousands, all over the United States, all over the political world, all over the media world, all over the social media world, celebrating and justifying the death of Charlie Kirk. We saw the squad on Capitol Hill. We see Gavin Newsom now using the exact same terminology which was etched into the bullet casings which murdered Charlie Kirk, using those same terms to describe his political opponents, those who he disagrees with on the right. This is why you probably, if you're on social media very much, which I wasn't especially active on social media before all of this happened, I've become more so now, but you probably saw dozens of your friends and of your friends' friends posting articles that justified the killing of Charlie Kirk. Why? Why? Because 24 out of 100 of those in our nation who identify as very liberal consider it fine to be happy about the death of your political opponent. 3% of those who identify as very conservative would say the same. Again, 3% is, I'm ashamed of that number. It shouldn't even be 0.03%. It should be none of us. It should be none of us. Which again is the party of violence? Tell me again, which is the party of violence? Yes, 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 yes. January 6th. I can already hear them all saying this. January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. Donald Trump, he says mean things about his political opponents. Yes, yes, yes. January 6th. A riot of those extremists who went into the Capitol, and we all know, we all saw the footage. That's your argument, and it's a good point. Obviously, it should never have happened. It's wrong. It's wrong that it happened. But stop calling the right the party of violence. 600 violent riots after the overdose of George Floyd was committed by those on the left. 600 violent riots, the murder of dozens of our citizens with knives, guns, bombs, the burning of our businesses, the burning of our cities, the destroying of downtown cities like Minneapolis, Seattle, Portland, go there, Chicago. The party of political violence. Yes, it can come from either side, but the culture of political violence. Yes, individual acts of violence can come from either side. It just so happens that they are coming from the left one heck of a lot more than they're coming from the right. Yes, political violence can come from either side. What does it say about the culture of the party from which the violence originates? What does it say about the culture? I would say that the reaction of that party to their own constituents' violence, the reaction of that party reveals the culture. When 24% of those who identify as very liberal celebrate or think that it's okay to be happy about the death of their political opponent, when 25% of those who identify as very liberal consider that it is okay, at least at times, to commit political violence against your opponents, that is the culture. The reaction of the culture, the celebration of the left when the right is murdered. The celebration of the left. Yes, you will find those 3%. You can scour and dig deep. Look hard, and you'll find some posts from the 3% who are perverts, who are on the right, who are nutsoid perverts, and who ought to be imprisoned because they celebrate the death of their political rivals, rare though that may be. But you won't find 25% of us celebrating or justifying the death of our political opponents. Conservatives, let's do what we do best. Let's draw back to our core values. If this same study is done 5 years from now, may it be 3 out of 1,000 instead of 3 out of 100 conservatives that would celebrate the death of their political opponents. And then conservatives, let's continue getting the word out there. This study is an excellent tool. When your Facebook friend posts a celebration or a justification of political violence coming from the left, reply with facts. Say, you right now are being a part of that segment of your party, which is justifying, which is thereby promoting political violence. Stop it. It's not appropriate and it's wrong. Be a better example. Let's remember what Charlie Kirk died for. Freedom of speech, core American values. We all know that he wasn't a radical, right-wing. 95% of his beliefs were mainstream beliefs in our nation a few decades ago. 10 years ago were mainstream beliefs in the Republican Party. Remember his sacrifice, and let's go make a difference. God bless.